Howdy, welcome back at the shop. Hey, today we've got a treat especial, as one old boy would say, and then he'd string a bunch of cuss words. But today we're going to be playing with my Freed megaohmmeter. Now that is a very neat piece of equipment. I don't know if Freed's still in business. They are in Seaford, New York. Now this megaohmmeter was made in the very mid-90s probably, be my guess. They may still be in production. They made basically this same megaohmmeter with revisions for years. Very good machine. Vacuum tube regulated. I'll show you the schematics at the end of the video. Very, very cool. Now this piece of equipment came from a friend of mine. This is a I think we figured it was about a 2,500 or maybe 3,000 watt generator end. Buddy bought it. It came with a little diesel, 2-cylinder diesel motor, and he wanted it for the diesel engine. And then he thought, well, you know, if it'll work, it'll work. So anyway, this thing has been underwater, and it had that much mud and dirt dauber nests in between the rotor and the stator. This is a brushless generator end, runs on a capacitor. I'm not going to take the time to go into how all of that works. Basically, you're charging the capacitor with the windings in here off of the residual magnetism from this. You charge that capacitor. When the poles reverse, the field collapses, induces a current into here, recharges the magnet here. That turns its charge loose in here, field collapses, recharges, boom, 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 boom. Very cool. So anyway, we're going to play with the high pot megaohmmeter here. I'm just wanting to show you all the filth that came out of this thing. So I've been playing with this thing off and on for a little bit. It took me 6 hours to get one end bell knocked off of this thing to where I could slide the rotor out. Okay, this blue winding was shunted together. I have no idea what this is for, and it is open from here to here and open to ground. I don't even know if it goes anywhere. It may be, I don't know what it does, but it is open. This right here is the capacitor winding. This would be where you're getting your excitation from. I guess you would call it excitation. And this is power winding, the ones with the eyelets in it. So my power winding, this is a 110 volt machine, so one end of this is grounded and the other end is power. So that's that. What we're worried about is capacitor and power. And I have ohmed them end to end on the capacitor and power windings, and they ohm good. 1.5 ohms, something like that. But what I'm worried about or concerned or looking at is, since this thing had to take such a big old whooping to get it apart, that's hard on things. And it's been underwater, and I mean, you can see how rusty and gross it is in there. I want to check the condition of the insulation. Okay, the first thing that I always do when I'm using something like this, and I'm not an electronics expert by no means, but this is basically how you hook it up to check a motor or a transformer, is you hook your red lead to the red lead, your ground, your black lead to that says ground underneath of it. Now this is bonded. This is the case ground to the equipment. It's bonded to the ground in your 3-plug plug-in. And I have double checked, well, triple checked that this is earth ground. And I do every time. That just makes good sense. So you can see that this thing, the check and where you zero the infinity out is at 500 volts. And then you set it for 2 mega ohm at 500 volts. And that's how, as far as I know, and you've got a position down here for check. You turn it there, you twist knobs and stuff until all things line up, and then you make your measurements. So I think the first thing we'll do is we will check we will just check leads. This is my hot lead, and I'm just going to lay it out in the air, and I'm going to hit my test voltage. Now, even though everything is bonded and everything is everything, I only touch the plastic parts. So at 500 volts, let's kick her up to the 10 scale, times 10. So we got 500 volts, infinity. 1,000 volts, infinity. 2,000 volts, infinity. 2,500 volts, infinity. So we're good. And you can see once I go much over 500 volts, this megaohm scale drops. I don't know why. If I read the manual, I'd probably understand that better. And yes, this is accurate. I could put my fluke I can put my fluke 116 in right here across these test leads. And when you crank this dude up to 500 volts on this meter, you're getting about 500 volts. It's bitey. So now that being said, that reminds me, if you're stupid, don't do this. If you're careless, don't do this. If you electrocute yourself, it's not my fault. You're an idiot, and you probably had it coming. These are 500 volts will kill you. 1,000 volts will kill you. 1,500 will kill you. And not only will this machine kill you, it will hurt the whole time you die, slowly. So don't do this at home, kids. So the first thing I'm going to test is my power winding. We're hooked up to the power winding. We're not going to jump back and forth. So we're on the times 10 scale, 500 volts. And we're starting to climb a little bit. So there we've got a little bit of a reading. So we're at, let's call it 4.5 times 0.4. Times 10. So we've got about 18 megaohms at 1,000 volts. Maybe 20 megaohms at 1,000 volts. That's good. Don't care. 20 megaohms at 1,000 volts on a 110 volt generator end is great. That ain't gonna hurt a thing. And you can crank this dude up until you get to a breakdown. I'm gonna kick it back to times 1, and you can check your insulation breakdown voltage. There's 1,500 volts. Proof. Okay, we hit about 1,500 volts, and then everything went bananas. And you can see the needle on the volt scale. It's going bananas, much past 1,500 volts. So 1,500 volts is right at the breakdown voltage of the insulation on that winding. Now we'll go over to the capacitor winding. And I have no idea what the running operating voltage is on the capacitor winding on these. There was a time when I could calculate that, but I can't no more. So boom, we can't even hit 500 volts. So it looks like our breakdown voltage on that. I can't even hit 250 volts. So that lead, there we go. I did hit 250. Yeah, that I wouldn't trust that. If I can't get up to 500 volts on an insulation test, I ain't trusting it. So that's 0.15, so 0.5 times 100. So that'd be 50 megaohms at 250 volts. So that's pretty extreme leakage on that winding. And I wouldn't trust it. I'm going to I wrote my numbers down. I'm going to give them to the guy and say, here you go. It's what I know. You can trust it if you want, but with as corroded as everything is, I wouldn't trust it none. So here's kind of how I set these up when I'm doing, like if I'm working on a generator out in the field, or I'm working on a generator, and it's in good shape and everything's clean. I'll polish up a little bit of a spot on the aluminum somewhere, because you always got an aluminum end bell. I'll polish that a little bit to where I can clamp onto it, and good enough. But on something as crusty and rusty as this, I polished me a clean spot on that stator, and then and that is the stator lambs. That's not a can. That's just laminations. So I polished up the stator lambs and then clamped a piece of copper on it to give myself a ground, a reliable, good ground. And that's how I did that. And here's the rotor out of this thing. I mean, good night, look how nasty that is. I have no idea the brand of this. I'm assuming it's got SAE bolts in it. I don't know who made it though. It was belt driven, horizontal shaft belt driven. I'm guessing it may have been but it was diesel, and no name on a diesel engine anywhere. So I don't know. "10 Alpha 993. I don't know whose part number that is. Guess I could Google it. So you can see it's a Freed model 1620 Bravo megaohmmeter. Freed Electronics, Washington Avenue in Seaford, New York. And this dude is cool. I love the schematics on this. That's a 12AU7 vacuum tube. And this drawing, the date on it looks like 95. Yeah, this drawing is 1999. Some schematics. Parts list. A lovely, lovely, lovely book on this thing. I just love this megaohmmeter. It's just not very portable. So there we go. That's all I know about that. And like I said, I'm going to recommend, I don't know what that blue winding is for. It was just shunted together. But a manufacturer would not put a winding in anything without it going somewhere to something. So I am guessing that it's burned and opened. I can't get it to meg to anything. So something's goofy with it. That capacitor winding, I wouldn't trust it no further than I could throw it. And with just the general condition and rust on everything, especially that old rotor, I think this one is for the birds. So that's all I got to say about that, y'all. Hope you enjoyed. Please feel free to tell me everything I did wrong down in the comments. So with that, y'all drive safe. Watch for deer.